Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5 and episode number 790 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, and it looks like it's going to be a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. A happy birthday to my friends Dan and Canada's most fabulous librarian, Katharina. I hope that you have wonderful birthdays today. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Don't sure if I introduced myself, can't remember already, but I'll do it again if I haven't. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. We have a show for you today. Miss Sadika saying, Douglas, you're looking fine with the eyeliner. I actually don't have the eyeliner this morning. I washed all the makeup off last night. This is actually my face. Maybe I didn't do a really good job of it, but no, there's no eyeliner this morning. That's just me. Oh boy. Okay. Kids and cubs, I am tired. I am very, very, very tired. Um, as I mentioned last week, we might have later starts over the next few weeks because yesterday we had rehearsal again. We went a little late again, but we did get the full show in. And of course, when that happens, the first time, well, a lot of times after you do a show, there's a bit of a high. We didn't have an audience or anything, but like we finally got the full show in, and we have a show. So yeah, we were a little excited, and I got home from that. And my Beaver sweetie, as you know, is in Phoenix, Arizona, at a big scientific conference. We're just outside Phoenix, actually. And so there's 2 hours difference. So we got out of rehearsal and got home, and we chatted a little bit. And so it's yeah, I have a feeling that adrenaline highs are going to be keeping me up rather late, 1:30, 2 o'clock, which makes getting up for 7 o'clock show really rough over the course of the next little bit. So I apologize if there will be later start times this week. I am doing my best, but I really need sleep. It is at a premium, so I'm that extra half hour I can sneak in or is very, very important. But yeah, I'm feeling it today. There's probably going to be a nap at some point today. Fortunately, I don't have any rehearsals during the day anymore, so I can take time for a little nap, and hopefully it'll be everything will be all right. Kid Elaine here, tech week as hell. It really is. We had uh, the moving on the theater on Friday, which normally I help with, and this time I didn't because I knew it was going to be just a lot with getting Alex ready to go away to his conference, and he had a concert on Saturday night as well. So we try to help each other out uh, around that time. And since I did have the Thursday or the Friday off, I was doing as much as I could to help him get ready for his concert and his departure. So they weren't the most restful days in between the rehearsals on Wednesday and the weekend to come. But over the weekend, it was about 20 hours of rehearsal within the space of 36, which is a lot. Um, it's a lot. Uh, Glad to do it, but it's a lot. And then you go into a rehearsal Monday where you're doing the full show, and then Tuesday when you're doing the full show, and then Wednesday dress rehearsal with audience and some critics are there. Thursday opening night officially, and more critics there. Then Friday show. Then you get the matinee and the evening show on Saturday, and then the Sunday matinee, and then you finally get a couple days off for the second week run. So there's a 9-day period in there where it's literally all show, and you have your you're getting out of the theater at 10:30 ish, at 10:45 ish, and you still have to that's out of costume. You still got to get home, get out of makeup, and like you said, you have the whole buzz and the energy thing that takes a little while to come down from. So yeah, Hell Week and first week of shows is very, very hard. A lot of people are performing very tired, and especially our voices, because we've not had a break for 9 days. And, the projecting and singing like that. So the end of week one shows sometimes can be a little rough. But hey, we got a full show, and it is looking rather good at the moment. We still have one or two little mistakes that we need to pick up so that everything is smooth. So that is what we're doing tonight, and hopefully we won't have any tomorrow for the dress rehearsal with audience and critics, so we can get some good reviews and more butts in the seats. Our show is, I believe, about 2/3 sold out at some point last week, which is very good at this period. I mean, right there, that's good that we have a break-even run already, at least, which is good, and then everything else is bonus. So yeah, hopefully with some reviews and some word of mouth, and just people waiting closer to the day to buy tickets because they're not sure of their schedules, that we will sell even more seats, and that this will be uh, a good revenue generator for the theater company, which is also a charity. So it's we're doing good stuff. All right. But yeah, I am a little tired. I will admit, and it might be showing a little bit in my eyes. I might have like little tiny eyes on screen. There's definitely some bit of dark circles there, but makeup is Beaver's best friend. So on stage, it doesn't show. Thank God for foundation. That's all I will say. All right, kids and cubs. Let's get into it. For those of you who missed yesterday's morning show and didn't see the quick hit I did in the evening, I am sorry that I wasn't here yesterday. I had a little bit of an adventure in that after about 20 hours of rehearsal in the space of 36, I was so tired that I forgot my keys, wallet, and phone at the actual theater on Sunday night. And yeah, I was locked out of the house, so I did not have access to either my computer or my phone to do a show for you on Monday morning. And that's my explanation. It's not fancy, and it's not complicated. I was dumb, pretty much. I own it. I had to MacGyver myself a solution that night as well for sleeping, but yeah, don't worry. Uh, your beaver is resourceful. I built myself a dam. All right. Ooh, spilled a little water there. Let's get into the show. As you know, the big news is that the budget. I like the shadow guy. Yeah, you'd better be sorry. I love that. Wonderful. I love it. I love it. Yes, I am very, very sorry. Yeah, and yes, for those of you who have been wondering, Twitter has been having some issues here, according to Kit Uncover the News on Tuesday morning at 11:48 UTC. I'm gonna guess that's Greenwich Mean Time. UTC, but I know that UTC stands for something else. Cloudflare confirmed its global network is experiencing issues impacting multiple customers. So that's what it was. Okay, I was wondering why I was having a Cloudflare come up with the page come up when I was trying to post the show to Twitter to make sure that people could see it this morning. Wow. Uh, But, okay, so that's what's going on. Good. It cleared up just before we went live. I had to delay going live a little bit to make sure that we can get the notice out. But there we go. All right. So yeah, excellent. Indeed. Kitland and lesson learn hide a key somewhere. That's the next thing I'm going to do. Exactly. Try to find a spot to hide a key in case that happens again. Well, I look great. Okay, I will take the compliment. All right, enough about me. There is definitely so we have a budget, kits and cubs. That's the important thing. As we had said yesterday, we had some breaking news at somewhere in the afternoon. Elizabeth May managed, not managed, but found a way to agree with the government to vote for the budget. She had a concern that there was absolutely nothing in the budget related to our Paris agreements, which are targets, which are legally binding targets. And she was able to extract a commitment from the prime minister to those targets, and that was enough for her, as well as to a meaningful reconciliation and something having to do with a nature strategy as well. So the prime minister has committed to those. Now it's up to her. And up to him to live up to it, and up to her to judge how well he is living by his word, because this is not the only confidence matter on the budget. There will be others, as the ways and means statements come in and all those types of stuff. So I believe there's another confidence measure again today of some type with regard to the budget. I was hearing on CPAC yesterday. So there will be more confidence votes, and this is Elizabeth made it very clear to not assume that he has your support for all the subsequent ones. He's got to start proving stuff, and since 2035 is coming really quickly. Our original targets were 2030 under Stephen Harper, and then Justin Trudeau moved them to 2035. We need to get cracking on that, and then we have 2050 goals as well. But we need to get cracking on that, according to Elizabeth May, and that's going to require some action and some action relatively quickly. So we'll see how it is that the prime minister intends to satisfy the demands of the Green Party in order to maintain that vote for confidence measures, while at the same time keeping Danielle Smith in Alberta satisfied with regard to a pipeline that she really wants. It seems that they are working on a memorandum of understanding. Danielle Smith is turning around saying, "I expect to see it in a couple of days." Prime Minister says, "It's probably going to be closer to weeks." And again, the fact that there is a memorandum of understanding is not going to get a pipeline on the major projects list anytime soon. Daniel Smith still needs to do something with that memorandum of understanding in order to draw up a proponent. And Daniel Smith keeps on referring to those 9 bad laws. As far as we know, they still exist. And there might be some difficulty in eliminating those as well if the prime minister wants to maintain Elizabeth May's support on budgets. So there's probably going to be some conflict there at some point. He's making a lot of promises to a lot of people. It might be difficult to keep them all. So it's just which promises are you going to keep first? And right now, it would seem that the ones to Elizabeth May might have become a little bit more of a priority than the ones to Danielle Smith. Of course, said with regard to Danielle Smith, the ball is still in her court to find a proponent. So I'm guessing that she's believing that armed with an MOU, that's going to happen more easily for her. I doubt that very, very, very much. Number one. Number two, um, I also doubt that a pipeline will ever make it on the major projects list because the five criteria that are required for the major projects are definitely probably not alive and kicking with regard to an Alberta pipeline. Again, going through BC, if that's the one that happens to the BC coast. That's not going to advance reconciliation. It's not really going to advance Indigenous partnership. It's definitely not particularly green, even if it is decarbonized, quote unquote. Um, the pathways thing would have to exist and be proven before this pipeline comes along in order to say that this pipeline is going to be producing so-called decarbonized oil. So Danielle Smith keep on saying that she expects to see it on the list in a couple of days or a couple of weeks or whatnot. We are years from that, and I think that's why the Prime Minister and Danielle Smith have come to an agreement to have this separate side process with MOUs. Keep on saying the right things, keep on showing that you're interested and that you're open to it, but it has to take a different path than a major project. It's just not going to happen that way for an oil pipeline. Also, more likely, Danielle Smith would get a pipeline, going east through Manitoba than British Columbia, and more likely, if there is a pipeline to be, it will probably be, the Keystone XL thing to the U.S. and just say, well, there, you got your pipeline, even though it's still, pipeline going through U.S. rather than to Tidewater. But that would be the quickest way for Mark Carney if he absolutely has to follow through on a pipeline. If he can't, this process can't be with MOUs and trying to find a proponent can't be dragged out long enough until maybe Danielle Smith is no longer premier. Hopefully that would be sooner rather than later. But anyway, there will be some tension there in that relationship. It'll be interesting to see how that particular political love triangle, Elizabeth May, Danielle Smith, Mark Carney, plays out in the coming weeks and months. But the budget did pass. There was not that much drama at the end. Still, nobody knew for sure about half an hour before the vote was taking place how it was all gonna fall. How was all going to fall out? Who specifically was going to abstain and that type of stuff, and how it would play out. And but the government side seemed to be rather confident throughout the entire day that it was indeed going to pass. So they must have felt that they were getting close with Elizabeth May at some point, or they had already had the gentleman's agreement that she would ask the question during question period, I guess, and get that commitment from Mark Carney to the Paris Climate Agreement goals and targets in order to be able to move forward. And as we mentioned on our budget breaking little nibble yesterday, that pretty much anybody would have been surprised if the Conservatives' Matt Genereux would have showed up to vote. There was some doubt in that there's a whole lot of people who were thinking that Genereux was very, very, very much coerced into not resigning his seat before the spring so that the Prime Minister would not call an instant by-election or instant as quickly as possible. That could have resulted, because it's a riding in Edmonton, which is known to be a little bit more progressive in Alberta, a riding that Pierre Poilievre could lose, sending him into his leadership review with an MP having defected and having lost a seat to the Liberals in a by-election. That would definitely not have gone well for Pierre. So that's the whole reason that Matt Genereux is technically still a Conservative member, even though he hasn't been showing up to caucus for a while, and even though he did not show up to vote on the Bloc amendment to accepting the budget statement and the Conservative sub-amendment to not accepting the Bloc's amendment and not accepting the budget statement. So everyone would have been very surprised to see Marc Genereux in the halls to vote, although said the pressure tactics being what they are within the Conservative ranks, It also would not have surprised me that one of the conditions of him getting all these wonderful statements, oh, he's a good guy and we wish him the best, as opposed to what Chris Dodgemont got, you're a rat and a traitor and all that kind of stuff, maybe had to do with, you embarrassed us on the budget day with that resignation, but you will be voting against that budget or we will ruin you. Because apparently that seems to be what's going on in conservative circles. If you stray, we will make your life hell and we will ruin you. Apparently, that's the word on the tweet anyway. So it would appear that that was not part of the deal, or if it was, then Matt Generou just flipped them the bird. That we will never know. It's internal stuff unless there's a leak. But Matt Generou did not show up to vote. Or vote or had an abstention specifically as a vote, one or the other. But his name is not on the list of people who voted with the Conservatives. So with that, Elizabeth May and Matt Generou being gone, or could be being able to relatively reliably be counted on, we knew right away at that point that the budget would pass because that would make 171 votes for the Liberals if everybody voted, if all that happened that way. So because they have 169 votes, the 170th vote is the speaker who only votes in the case of a tie. Elizabeth May was 170, and if Matt Generou doesn't vote, well, that kind of makes like 171, and then that would arrive to a 171 to 171 tie. That would leave the deciding vote to the speaker. And a lot of people going, well, the speaker is liberal, so he would have voted liberal. Yes, but that's not how it works by convention. The speaker, regardless of the party represented by the speaker, will always vote with the government in a tie by convention in order to preserve continuity of government. So that's the political convention. It's not a rule. It's a convention. Anybody can break it at any time, but that's usually how these things play out. But the Liberals did one better with the budget passing 170 votes to 168. And the reason for that is because there were 4 abstentions. There was Matt Generou, of course. There was also Shannon Stubbs of the Conservative Party of Canada, who allegedly had some surgery scheduled. Apparently, I think it's Major Josker surgery scheduled uh, pre the date of the budget being announced. So she was on an approved medical leave. Um, some people saw some videos on her Facebook yesterday. I'm not sure when those were, if those were recorded yesterday or whatnot, but based on uh, the video on Facebook, somebody was thinking surgery, huh? Because she seems to be talking rather fine. But again, that could have been pre recorded and edited and just released yesterday. And on the NDP side, we were suspecting before the show that the 2 abstentions would come from Gord Johns and Don Davies. Don Davies did vote against the budget as the interim leader, but Gord Johns did not, and neither did Laurie Idlett, who represents the electoral district of Nunavut and the whole territory of Nunavut as well in the federal parliament. So with those 4 non-votes, and Elizabeth May going to the Liberal side, it was 170 to 168. Because, of course, the regular standings are 169 Liberal to 173 opposition parties. So, and there was a little bit of gamesmanship from the Conservative Party of Canada in that for some reason, when it comes to uh, votes that are made in while you're away, remote voting. If somehow you're trying to remote vote and you are having some technological difficulty of some kind that it's not going through, uh, when the votes are cast, you can go into the House of Commons afterwards and to cast your vote. You know, they still have to it's still within the voting period. You have to get there pretty quickly, so you have to be relatively close, but you can still do that. And it would appear that both the House Leader Andrew Scheer and Michael Chong claimed to have had difficulty voting remotely, even though they were on Parliament Hill. They were trying to vote from their offices, I guess. They claimed and had difficulty, so came into the House at the last minute to add 2 votes so that it wouldn't be 170 to 166, so that conservative voters and people who donate to the Conservative Party could look and say, "Hey, how come you guys didn't vote and help that budget pass?" So they wanted to see what the numbers were on the other side. And then when they saw that they were safe, then Andrew Scheer and Michael Chong came and cast their votes for 170 to 168 because they knew that their votes would then not provoke an election, which the Conservatives really don't want. It would appear, based on the manner in which they are voting and making sure that these confidence measures pass, doing all the work to make sure these confidence measures pass while sending fundraising emails and communications to all their donors telling about how this liberal government is so terrible and how their budget is so awful that they really, really, really need their donation to help them defeat the liberals and go to an election as soon as possible. But they keep on passing on an opportunity to go to an election as soon as possible. Nice grift if you can get it, and you can get it if you try. Oh man, I wonder if conservative voters actually knew how often their own party screws them over in order to do another fundraising run, whether or not they would keep donating. If somebody could make it really clear and if they would actually believe the information, if it was presented to them, because that's the other thing, right? I choose not to believe this. It's like, okay, I was having this discussion with this guy who said that all about the alleged turmoil in the Liberal Party because Nate Erskine Smith produced a video in which he said, yeah, this budget it could be better, but overall, I'm supportive. These comments come in the context of overall support for the budget because there's some good stuff in there. So that turmoil in the Liberal Party. He says, but Nathan Erskine Smith said he would vote for the budget. Show me where he said. Okay, well, there's this part in his video here, and then there's these 2 interviews with Power and Politics where he says, or 3 points in this interview in Power and Politics where he says he's supportive of it. And here's an article by noted Liberal hack Andrew Coyne in which Andrew Coyne quotes Nathan Smith saying that he's supporting the budget. But none of those words, or those quotes contain the words "I will vote for the budget." So it's not he's saying he will vote for the budget. Okay, well, how about the 2 times on motions 48 and 49 where he actually did vote with the government on 2 confidence matters? But that's not a vote on the budget. Okay, now how about yesterday when he actually stood up in the House and voted on the budget? Do you believe it now? That was a coerced vote or something, right? They'll come up with or something. I don't know it, but it's like, right? There's some people out there that just won't believe it unless it's the actual words they want to see in a quote, or unless you know, uh, unless it's already happened, right? So, but apparently, yes, so much turmoil in the liberal ranks, according to Pierre, that everybody voted as expected. Right. So, yeah, the Conservatives get off a little easy in that sense that, they can say that, Shannon Stubbs had a pre-cleared, medical thing that was scheduled before the budget date, and, well, Matt Giroux, well, you know, he he technically resigned, so you can't expect him to vote. Although, oddly enough, there are, some, people that are a little mad about that, which is kind of interesting. We have uh, Crybaby Caillou here, who took a photo of Matt Generou and put it in a of his, and then got all. If not sure, text is good enough for you to see. It's a little tiny. Let's see if I can break that up for you here. No, it doesn't work that way. So he basically said, noted loser, as The Conservatives lose the budget vote. Noted loser Team Generou also abstained. The fact that he will be stealing a salary from taxpayers for months while doing nothing should be criminal, which, of course, as you can see here in my notes, makes me wonder. Okay, Kian Bexty, if you are really so upset that Matt Generou will be uh, collecting a salary from taxpayers before he actually does leave the House and resign his seat and provoke a by-election, and that this is, according to you, stealing that, quote, should be criminal. Perhaps, Kian, you should ask why it should be that stealing that is so terrible that it should be criminal is being allowed to occur on Mr. I'm so tough on crime, I'll unleash the notwithstanding clause on yous. Watch. You're almost there, Kian. You're almost there. If Matt Generou is stealing in a manner that should be criminal, and he's still a member of the Conservative Party of Canada, and he is being allowed to do it by the leader, maybe you should ask a question to the leader. Why is the leader allowing that theft to happen on his watch? You're almost there, Kian. You're almost there. It's crazy, eh? In their efforts to vilify and vilify and vilify, they do not realize what they are saying about the people they actually support. If Matt Generou is a thief, Pierre is aiding and abetting. Because if he was such a thief, you would think that a party leader, one who is so tough on crime, would be kicking that MP who is stealing in such a criminal way out of caucus. But Pierre seems to really, 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 really want Matt in caucus, at least until the spring. They're almost there. Almost there. Conservatives, man. Tell you, again, storytellers, not policymakers, not legislators, not politicians, storytellers. All of them. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? Yes, with regard to the conservatives basically um, found a way out, and because um, the NDP did abstain in 2 spots. The Liberals will go out and say, "Well, we voted against the budget. We voted against the budget." Yeah, you did vote against the budget. All the recorded votes that are there are votes that say nay to the budget. But that's the case for the NDP too. The 5 votes that are recorded for the NDP also say nay for the budget, but there are 7 NDP members, right? This Not every conservative voted. So, as much as the conservatives want to say they didn't do anything to help that budget pass, they really did, and so did the NDP, rather equally in this case. So, right, um, that's going to be the sort of um, d- dirty little secret that the conservatives don't want to hear people talking out loud. That Pierre keeps on whiffing on every opportunity to take down the government when it actually arrives. Now, with regards to the NDP, they also are going to have some things to explain to their constituents, but they have a bit of an easier job of it. Um, One, because for the NDP to go ahead, yes, um, they could have run the risk if there was another election, maybe getting official status again, but there's also risks that they could have lost more seats. Um, and the government, as we mentioned yesterday on the sort of breaking news nibble, had put stuff in the budget for certain individual ridings in order to help try to convince some MPs to either abstain or vote in favor of the budget. There wasn't a lot of direct negotiating with House leaders of various parties between the government of Canada uh, at this time and them, because it seemed that the government of Canada was rather confident that the budget would pass, or that if it didn't, if the opposition parties made it fall, that the government could go into another election in rather solid footing, not necessarily running on this budget itself, because there's not many baubles in the window. There's no tax cut or that type of stuff that it will attract the attention, but as a serious exercise that was needed in a serious time, and a government that was just elected to get certain things done, and the opposition parties delaying that process when time is at a premium. Um, so basically, the government felt that, given that it was offering a serious option and others were not, that, it would have looked way better for them to go into an election in that state. However, they tried to maybe attract some Bloc Québécois votes with talking a lot about certain investments for the port in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean area. There was also some stuff in the Gaspé area for one of the MPs there, but the Club Bloc Québécois is very firm that all 22 Bloc MPs would show up in the House to vote against, and that is exactly what they did. They followed through on their commitment with regard to that. But with regard to the New Democrats, for Don Davies, for example, there was money for the funding of a Filipino community center in his electoral district. And Don Davies' electoral district was the one in which that Lapu Lapu Day tragedy uh, occurred with the Filipino community. So, funding for a Filipino community center in this particular case was a very big demand in that electoral district, and it was granted. So that would make it difficult for Don Davies to vote against it and then go back to his constituents and saying, I voted against this specific thing for us. So Don Davies did vote against it, but of course, as the interim leader, allowed a situation where two MPs could abstain, and those two MPs are Gord Johns, who is the member for Alberni Courtney, I believe, and there were some things in the budget for his electoral district that could have swayed him. One, there was a clean technology investment tax credit for biomass energy, and that helps a lot because Domtar is a company that could benefit from that, and that is located in his riding. And as well, there was a allocation of $257.6 million over 4 years to lease four aircrafts to bolster the provincial and territorial aerial fighting capacity. And that Gord Johns had expressed hope that Port Alberni's Coulson Aviation, a global leader in aerial fighting, would be able to secure some of this funding or be involved in the federal fleet's operation. So there may have been some stuff with regard to that that helped him come to that decision. For Lori Idlett, um, who we had mentioned a couple of weeks back that maybe one of the abstentions would come from one of the three women who are self-identified racialized minorities, who were not happy with the manner in which Don Davies was selected as interim leader. Um, so there was a little bit of budget drama in that Leah Gazan was trying to vote remotely, I think, and it wasn't working, and they were trying to get a yes or no vote for her on the record, and she kept on trying to make a political statement during the yes or no vote, which was getting her shouted down by colleagues in the House. You're not supposed to do that. It's just supposed to be yay or nay, and that's it when you're voting. Um, Jenny Kwan, who voted against the budget, and then Lori Idlett, who decided to abstain because there's not a lot of new funding for Indigenous programs, particularly stuff having to do with children. However, in the budget, There were things, for example, the establishment of a new critical mineral sovereign fund, which could benefit the territory. Um, because it could expand eligibility for this credit in order to encourage investment. Sorry, that was a critical mineral exploration tax credit. So, proposal to expand eligibility for this tax credit to encourage investment. Then there was the Critical Mineral Sovereign Fund, which was a new fund created to make strategic investments in critical mineral projects and companies. And there was an Arctic Infrastructure Fund as well, mentioned in the budget, um, that could be beneficial. Also, according to the CBC, and this is posted November 6th, according to Bianca McCowan, that um, some Inuit leaders are feeling optimistic. This is of course, I should write this in the past tense. Some Inuit leaders were feeling optimistic about the federal government's budget tabled a week ago Tuesday, though there is some uncertainty about how funds will be distributed and used for Inuit. Jeremy Tunraluk, the president of Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, said he's encouraged to see support for the new Inuit Nunangat University and the $1 billion towards the Arctic Infrastructure Fund meant to build highways, roads, and ports for dual use for military and civilians. But he also says more funding is needed in the north. "Quote unquote, this is a great start. However, for the long term, it's not nearly enough to bridge the infrastructure gap we have in Nunavut," Tunraluk said. "With this $1 billion Arctic infrastructure fund, it's not too clear how we will be receiving these funds and who will be receiving these funds." In addition, he's concerned about the lack of funding for healthcare and tuberculosis prevention. That's something that also troubles Inuit Tapirut Kanatami's president Natan Obed. In 2018, national organization ITK and the Liberal government jointly committed to eliminating the disease in Inuit regions by 2030 while halving rates by 2025. Obed is pleased with the support for the university, but is disappointed with the lack of announcement about the Inuit Child First Initiative. The Inuit Child First Initiative, ICFI, program has been in place since 2018 as a temporary measure to ensure Inuit children have timely access to essential supports and services, while an Inuit specific framework is being developed. Quote, "We were hoping that in Budget 2025, the Government of Canada would make a 10-year investment for almost $10 billion to ensure we could have shared responsibility model that allows for Inuit children not be discriminated against," Obed said. "We will still continue to work towards that goal, but we were really disappointed that there wasn't mention of it." Karen Costello, the executive director with the Northwest Territories and Nunavut Chamber of Mines, says the infrastructure fund is a step in the right direction, but more commitments are needed. Quote, "When you look to develop the North, it's going to take more than a single billion or $2 billion, she said. The federal government has proposed expanding the eligibility for the Critical Mineral Exploration Tax Credit, which aims to incentivize investment in the exploration of specific critical minerals. Also in the budget is a new critical mineral sovereign fund to make strategic investments in critical mineral projects and companies. Costello welcomes that, however, she wanted to see a north of 60 mineral exploration tax credit to attract investments to the territories. Quote, "Exploring in the north is more costly," she said. "We have been looking for that opportunity for the federal government to, as I said, level the playing field so that we could attract exploration investment." I think that's exploration investment for early stage projects in the north, and we didn't see that. Laurie Idlet, the NDP MP for Nunavut, is not as optimistic about the budget. This was at the time, November 6th. She says she doesn't see a lot of benefit going to Nunavut, specifically with the Arctic Infrastructure Fund, and worries it opens up Nunavut to development without ensuring Inuit are the ones leading the charge. Quote, "I know that sounds like a lot for the Arctic, but when you look at details of what they're proposing, not a lot of that investment will go towards ensuring that Nunavummiut can have access to that fund to be part of the infrastructure," Idlet said. So there you go. Those were the measures, and I think the money for the university in particular, which has been a long time ask, and we've talked about this on the show before because I believe in the Canadians that make us proud section, we had complimented, I believe it was Mastercard, that had made a very sizable donation to the establishment of such a university, and stating that that got them a good way of the way there, but that we're needing some federal money to bridge the other portion. And I think that maybe this money might be enough so that they can start moving from a concept to hopefully actually building this university there, so that it would allow people in the region to be able to study closer to home and not have to go far away in order to pursue their education and become even more, have the opportunity to contribute even more to their society. Uh, yeah, it's a positive initiative overall, and it seemed it was enough to get Lori Idlut to say, can't support this, but there's a couple of things in here that are very, very good for my community that I would, it wouldn't look great voting against. Um, the NDP probably would have had the most difficult uh, job in having to explain this to constituents via the media. And I have to say that interim leader Dave pressed about this in a question and answer period, did a relatively good job of defending it, despite the fact that media kept on pressing him as a somewhat insufficient. You know, there's a contradiction here that you say you can't support the budget, but you took measures in order for that to pass. Well, I mean, yes, that is true, but that's also true of the Conservatives, right? So let's see what the leader had to say in the scrum following. You will see that Lori Idlet right there was there. There was a little bit of drama as well because originally her vote, I guess she was voting remotely, and her vote, I'm not sure if she was voting remotely or voting in the House itself, but her vote originally had been recorded as a vote against the budget, which caused a little bit of tension because that would have created a 171 to 171 situation. But somewhere along the way, she was able to alter it to an abstention officially from a no vote. So let's see how Don Davies handled the contradiction.
Don Davies, with his caucus standing behind him, about to explain why the NDP just did what they did. Let's listen in.
In the lead up to Budget 2025, New Democrats made it very clear that it needs to address head-on the crises facing Canadian families and invest in the programs that Canadians rely on. We have record unemployment, particularly among young people. We have a housing shortage and a cost of living crisis in communities across the country. Our cherished public healthcare system needs to be expanded, not cut. We need better childcare. Since the budget was presented almost 2 weeks ago, we have taken the time to listen to our constituents and to meet with stakeholders. It is clear from those conversations that this is a budget that does not address the real needs facing Canadians. It fails to meet the moment, deliver transformational change, or address the urgent needs facing Canadians. While there are elements of the budget which reflect our concerns, on the whole, this is a Conservative budget. From reducing healthcare funding to provinces, to making deeper cuts to services than Stephen Harper's budgets did, including to programs that are helping Canada's most marginalized communities, to reversing action on the climate crisis, this budget fails to deliver the policies our country needs. It particularly fails Indigenous people. But through these discussions, it became equally clear that Canadians do not want an election right now. The consequences of defeating this budget would not be to improve it or to help Canadians. It would be to plunge the country into an election only months after the last one, and while we still face an existential threat from the Trump administration. On that basis, we engaged in conversations with the government about improvements that could strengthen the budget and earn our support. At this time, the Liberals have not been willing to make those changes. And so, we have decided to put the interests of our country first, to vote against the budget, but to help prevent an election. Canada is facing instability and overlapping crises. In these challenging times, we must put our country's well-being first above partisan interests. When the next election comes, whenever that may be, Canadians will hold Mark Carney responsible and to account for his record and for the choices that he made in this budget. But today, New Democrats are choosing stability over political games.
But it's not just partisan interest, though. I mean, your party's abstentions just allowed for the government to cut thousands of public worker jobs. How do you square that being the party of workers?
Well, this is a Liberal budget, and this is what happens when you vote for Liberals, is these are the kind of neoliberal, neoconservative policies that you get. And we've opposed this budget. That's why we stood up and we're voting against the budget. We can't support it. They did not earn our support. And we tried to make changes to this budget. But at the same time, again, Canadians clearly don't want an election right now. And given the serious economic challenges facing our country right now, we don't think that it would be good for our country. So New Democrats have expressed our opposition to this budget, and we have said that we are not going to force an election right now that clearly Canadians don't want and our country doesn't need.
Was this about your electoral prospects?
Go ahead.
Was this about your electoral prospects, the fact that the NDP can't afford an election right now?
Not at all. No, I mean, this is not about us. This is about Canadians, and that's why the NDP, we took our time last week to go across the country to talk to Canadians and our constituents and find out what they said and what they wanted. And it is very clear. There is a strong consensus in this country that Canadians do not want an election basically 6 months after the last one. They also are feeling the precarity and the instability of the moment. We have Donald Trump still menacing our country and serious economic issues. Canadians want us to be in Parliament addressing those serious issues, and so that's why we're taking the position that we're doing.
Why isn't your caucus united? Why aren't you showing a united front?
Well, look behind me. Our caucus is entirely united.
You voted differently.
No, we didn't vote differently. We voted no against this budget, and we had a couple of abstentions, which is, of course, that happens in many cases, but nobody voted at cross purposes.
Did you get it against the government? Prop up the government. The abstentions prop up the government, sir.
So as you can see, journalists are not liking that they're not getting a nice tidy answer here, right? But Don Davies is technically correct. All 5 people from the NDP who voted did vote against the budget. There were 2 abstentions. Abstentions do happen all the time for a variety of reasons, but it's not satisfying, right? It says you had 2 people that did not vote nay, so you voted differently. So is there just, but the Conservatives did that too, right? Is anybody asking them this?
I think there were abstentions on the Conservative side too. Are they propping up the government? Why don't you go ask Pierre Poilievre?
That was a good moment from Don Davies there. So, like, listen, hey, you know, you're giving me a lot of heat here. Like this, make sure you distribute it around.
Why is it your responsibility to avoid an election? Why is it the NDP's responsibility to avoid an election? Isn't that the Liberals' responsibility?
Yes, it is. In fact, it's all parliamentarians' job.
Why abstain? Why allow them the chance to not go to an election by abstain? Why make that choice?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
You're saying it's the Liberals' job, but yet you're helping the Liberals avoid an election by abstaining. Why?
Look, there's 343 people in the House of Commons. I've said from the beginning that it's Mark Carney's responsibility as the Prime Minister of a minority government to craft a budget that can earn majority support. But at the same time, we're in a unique situation right now, 6 months after the last election, where Canadians don't want an election right now. I haven't heard anybody dispute that. There is no strong desire for an election among the Canadian people. And we believe that it's important to tap into what Canadians want. And second, what's very important is the economic precarity that we're facing right now. You know, we have serious economic issues. Mr. Trump is changing his mind every day, and it's not the right time for our country to plunge into an election. Monsieur Boulris
D'accord, merci, Monsieur Boulris.
français.
Merci, Monsieur Boulris.
Did you have
Okay, so again, being pressed, and again, Don Davies offering again another solid answer in that, you know, there's other things going on as well, you know, and that the Canadian, with the precarity caused by the United States, and that Canadians made it very clear that they do not want an election at this period of time. So the NDP did the responsible thing, recorded its objection to the budget, but in such a way that would not provoke an election, as Canadians have asked them to do, as their constituents that they've consulted with have asked them to do. This is the proper thing. This is right. This is a bit of talking about the system as it should be, right? I'm here to represent the views and the voices of my constituents. The voices of my constituents like the things that are in the constituency for the budget. They have told me to not make the government fall. I can't support the budget because there's a whole bunch of other things in it, but my constituents do want these things and do not want an election, so I will abstain. I'm actually representing the voice of my constituents. In this case, this is what they claim they are doing. This is probably what they are indeed doing, but it's interesting how sometimes the civics of how our politics works gives parties a bit of a get out of jail free card when they need to explain stuff, and how at other times when we have, for example, a floor crossing, he should resign right away and not run a by-election. Well, that's not the way our system works, but he should. I know that that's what you think he should do, but that's not how it works. Well, he should. Well, you need to stop living in the world of should and start living in the world of is. You'll be much less disappointed. So right? So this is a case where actually the proper civics answer is the correct answer, and that's what Don Davies is given. But the press is not liking it because it's not dramatic enough. Right? There's nobody bleeding. There's no drama. There's no soap opera there. So they're trying to push him. To try to get him to slip or say something a little extra. But Don Davies is really has mastery of his talking points and mastery of himself in this particular moment, and is actually handling this rather well. I will translate. There's no live translation, so I will have to translate the question to Monsieur Boulris because they are asking for comments in French. And Mr. Boulris, I believe, if I remember correctly, says a little more than Mr. Davies said, and I don't want you to miss that.
Je sais que je suis seul, là, mais il y a des millions de Canadiens qui nous écoutent.
So the journalist is going like, we would need a question in French here. I know I'm the only one, but there are thousands of Canadians that are waiting for this answer. And earlier said, there was another person asking questions at the same time as me, and I let her go. So, I would like to have an opportunity.
Monsieur Boulris,
Très bien. One or two and...
Oui.
Monsieur Boulris, vous semblez avoir mis de côté certains principes pour
Mr. Boulris, there is some translation. Sorry, I thought there wasn't.
You have set aside your principles to avoid an election. How long will you do that? Well, this is a very disappointing budget, and we said so in the NDP, that it was primarily a conservative budget that would harm the environment, and it's kind of strange to see Ms. May vote in favor of this budget when she supports fighting climate change. But we wanted to hear what Canadians said, what they felt. So we went into the communities last week, and the message was clear. We don't like this budget, but it would be irresponsible to go into an election at this time. So we took our responsibilities as parliamentarians. We voted against the budget, but at the same time we were responsible, saying Canadians don't want a budget. We have a few months ahead of us. We'll see what the next steps are. This is a minority government. In the spring, you're prepared to vote in a confidence vote? Well, we would be prepared to vote against the liberal government that's acting like a conservative government, cutting public services and not taking into account unemployment among young people. We're prepared to do that in the spring, but today we are behaving responsibly and listening to Canadians who said, listen, we don't like this budget, but please don't bring down the government. Did you receive something for your abstentions? Well, we had some discussions. We pushed the Liberals to give us some concrete results, but nothing happened. So we decided to vote no, but in order to avoid an election, we did what we had to do.
All right, so we will notice here that Monsieur Boulris, in giving his answers, did take the time opportunity to engage in a little partisanship, taking a little swipe at Elizabeth May. This seems to be a thing between the NDPs and the Greens. They like to take little swipes at each other now and then. Jagmeet Singh famously tried to suggest that Elizabeth May was pro-Quebec separatism at one point, and that got her very, very upset because they had had many private conversations, and he knew that that was not the case, but he was saying it anyway, and she tore a strip off him a couple of times and publicly asked, why is he behaving like this? he knows better. But yes, here, nice little bit of partisanship and a little bit of a swipe between the NDP and the Greens here. Not necessarily unexpected. Not sure. I guess it's kind of called for in this situation. It's an opportunity. You take the swipe, I guess. But I'm not sure how much it bolstered his message with regard to what the NDP is doing. So back to Mr. Davies, who's taking the helm again, and let's see what he has to say.
Does this mean you're not going to vote against this government until there's a new leader? Like, are you giving them free pass for like the next 4 or 5 months?
No, absolutely not. No, this is our vote for today. And, tonight the government dropped a 600-page Ways and Means motion that will be voted on tomorrow. And then, of course, there's the Budget Implementation Act, or maybe several of them. We haven't had a chance to review them. So this is our position for tonight. And we're going to be evaluating each measure that comes as it comes.
Mr. Davies, what concessions did you get for these abstentions?
We didn't get any concessions.
You're didn't get anything in return?
We're not propping anybody up. We voted no against the budget. We voted no.
Do you feel like you have any leverage now to push for amendments to this budget, to slow down the process of the implementation and therefore the cuts to the public service? I mean, what leverage do you have left now that you've abstained from this vote?
Well, I've said from the beginning that in a minority parliament where there are 3 opposition parties that hold a balance of power, all of us at one point or another have some leverage. We're going to continue to have conversations with the Liberals. I mean, we were engaged in discussions with them over the past few weeks. We did put forth a number of positive proposals that would have gathered, well, we're not going to bargain in public at this point, but they were concrete proposals that reflected the needs of working families and people across this country. Those were not ready to say yes to them. So we're going to continue pushing for policies to help working people that elected us to this parliament, and we'll continue using that leverage in the days and weeks ahead.
But you didn't get anything. You didn't get anything out of this last deal. By you abstaining, you knew that they would, the budget would pass, and you didn't get anything out of it.
The Democrats voted no to this budget.
Yes, but you say that you voted for the interest of the country, that this is your position for the interest of the country. But how could you go into an election? You don't even have a leader.
Well, I am the leader right now. We don't have a permanent leader. That's true.
How could you hit the trail with all the problems and the situation with the NDP?
I don't think any political party in the House of Commons wants an election right now. I haven't heard anybody say they want an election. Because, we all understand we just had an election in April. This is the first budget of this new government. And so, I think our first obligation here is to do what Jack Layton always taught us, which is people want Parliament to work. And so we're doing what New Democrats always do. We're coming to Parliament with positive, constructive ideas and trying to make it work. This is not about us. This is about Canadians. And the vast, vast, vast majority of Canadians want us to try to make this Parliament work. They do not want an election, and frankly, we don't think our country needs one at this point. So we're putting our country ahead of partisan interests, and I think that most parliamentarians, if not all, should do that.
Now that is the answer. Right then and there. That is the answer. That was well packaged, well put together, delivered, concise, sharp, and direct to the point. Don Davies nailed that one. No party clearly wants an election at the moment. The Greens found a way to support the budget even though there are subsidies for fossil fuels. The Bloc Québécois, well, they had nothing to lose or gain, so they were fine. Because the Conservatives did the same thing the NDP did, arranged for 2 of their MPs to be away or, not vote, and Andrew Scheer waiting in the background here to see whether or not he should vote. And yes, Kitlinda M Thank you for the gentle correction. It was not Andrew Scheer and Michael Chong, but Andrew Scheer and Scott Reed, who showed up to record their votes in the House after allegedly trying to do so electronically and failing. Michael Chong on the amendment and the sub-amendment, motions 49 and 48, he was trying to vote remotely and could get his vote in at that time. So the different votes, but Michael Chong was one of the ones who, because there were 7, I think, 6 or 7 conservative MPs that didn't vote on those ones. In this case here, there wasn't as many. So thank you for the gentle correction and the eagle eye, Kit Linda. You are indeed correct. All right, let's go back to Mr. Davies and see how he finishes this, because if I remember correctly, we're getting a little close to the end here because the questions are starting to get a little repetitive. So, but you type questions, right? Mr. Davies clearly explained his position like this, that they are against the budget, but your party doesn't even have a leader. Well, I'm the leader right now. But yes, we don't have a permanent one. But if they had to go into an election, the NDP would have a leader, their interim leader, and he would be the one representing the party. Which creates an interesting situation for the NDP to run during an election with a platform that is not guaranteed that the NDP would keep afterwards once they have their new leader. But that would be the situation they would be in. It's not like the party would be leaderless going into an election if there was one. So Mr. Davies, very precisely and pointedly making the arguments and reminding, again, giving us a bit of a lesson in civics here.
Specific reason why? When did you decide that 2 of you will abstain? Would you still have abstained if enough conservatives had abstained, or would you all have voted no in that scenario?
We caucus regularly. We have a tight, united caucus, and we made our own decisions on this. We decided what we were going to do, and it was up to the other parties. I mean, we have 7 votes out of 343. I mean, every other party in that House of Commons had a greater chance of influencing the outcome than we did.
Why Laurie and why did you two specifically? Why was it specifically you two?
Hey, Mr. Johns, can you explain why?
Or Laurie as well?
Sure.
You might have
Laurie as well.
First, did you want to go ahead, Laurie? Okay. Well, first of all, we made it clear last week, the week before last when the House was sitting, that we were going to go back to our ridings and listen to our constituents. I talked to every single mayor, 9 mayors in my riding, 3 regional district chairs, 17 elected chief councillors. All of them were unanimous and they didn't want the government to fall. So I did consultation. Unlike the Conservative MP on Vancouver Island who was on CBC radio just on Friday night saying that we shouldn't have an election, that nobody wanted an election, that he heard from his constituents all week they didn't want an election, that there should be an election next fall. What did he do? He voted for an election. So I'm sorry, we're being the adult in the room listening to our constituents who said right now is not the time to have an election. In the face of Donald Trump, that we need to stand united. We're going to fight. We're going to fight tomorrow for the things that we put on the table that we're not going to bargain in public about. And we're going to fight until we get more for Canadians. That is what Canadians expect of us, and that's what we're going to do.
What is your message to voters
Just very quickly, having lived in the 44th Parliament of always being accused that we're propping up the government, I couldn't live with that. Not with this budget. This budget doesn't do enough for Indigenous peoples, and I could not do that. So that's why I abstained, because we're not propping up the government.
What is your message to voters was offered by the government and the budget?
Okay, so some important things here to mention for those who are listening on audio. That was Gord Johns, the MP from Courtney, Alberni, who came up and stated that he had specifically conducted consultations. There's a little bit of partisanship there. Attacking the Conservatives for not having done any, but he has done consultations in his riding, and that's what they told him to do. So he was voting as he was instructed to. And the second voice was Laurie Idlett, who had abstained as well. And again, noting that, in the previous parliament, they kept on saying that you were propping up the government. So she didn't want to prop up the government, but didn't want the government, wanted to listen to her constituents who didn't want an election now either, and wanted those things for their riding. So she chose an abstention. again, you can make of these answers what they will, but what you're seeing is that the two people who abstained aren't afraid to go to the camera and explain their abstention. Not sure if that will be the same for Matt Generou and Shannon Stubbs. Now Shannon Stubbs can just say, well, surgery, sorry. She's got an easy way out. But I doubt that you will have Pierre Poilievre explaining, or Andrew Scheer explaining the abstentions, or Andrew Scheer explaining why it is he waited till the last minute to vote so that he knew whether or not he could vote for or against it in order to keep the government alive. But in this particular case, is you're getting direct accountability from the two MPs who voted abstentions. There is no such commentary that I know of from the Conservative side as of yet. The other thing as well, Lori Idlet's answer goes along with the question that had been asked previously. What did they get in exchange for the abstentions? And Don Davies said nothing. And then, oh my God, you didn't get anything? Well, it's like the guy would be sitting there. So you guys spent a year and a half raking this over the coals because we made the supply and confidence agreement where we did get things in exchange and said we were propping them up. So, if we abstain in exchange for something, then it looks like we're propping up again. So it's like, could you guys please pick a lane and tell us whether or not you want us to prop up the government or not? Because we're a little confused right now. When we do a supply and confidence agreement and provide, stability for a long time, you accuse us of propping up the government, getting nothing from it, and then when we abstain but get nothing for it, you accuse us of propping up the government too. It's like, what do we have to do? So some of these questions are expected, but they are a bit unfair considering what it is that we've just gone through. Right? It's like, you were all there, journalists. You documented it all. Why are you asking us why it is we didn't seek any inducements for our abstentions? Considering last time when we got dental care and pharmacare, what you did to us in the media, because we got those in exchange of our support. It's like, no, we didn't ask for any inducements. Considering what happened to us the last 2 years, that would look really bad now, wouldn't it? Oh. So the NDP's answers here are consistent and coherent, not only with what civics allows, but also what they've just experienced in the past. But again, it's not given the media the battle and the fight narrative that they like. It's not giving them the horse race narrative. Who's up front? Who's on top? Who's sticking it to who? None of this is happening. It's just the NDP going, hey, we listen to our constituents, and even though they won't admit it, and we don't have the money, and nobody else seems to be itching for an election if you're looking at everybody else's behavior. So, right? Let's pump the brakes on this a little bit. That's essentially the message here to the media. Like, this is not scandalous. Abstentions, just like floor crossings, happen all the time. Okay? And there's been no expressed desire either from any of the political parties. We've seen it from the Conservatives. They had an opportunity to take down the government. They didn't. The Bloc is being all gung-ho because they know all the other parties are not going to do it. Plus, the Bloc probably, of all the parties, the Bloc and the Liberals are the ones that have the most stand to have the most to win if we had another election right away. So they have no problem. So they were being big and bold. Because the Liberals weren't saying that they wanted an election, but they were behaving surely like they weren't scared of one because they weren't making that many concessions. Like, this is the budget, you take it or leave it. If you don't want an election, then you'll find a way to vote for the budget. Whereas you notice these questions from the journalists always have the other onus, right? Why is it your responsibility, the NDP, to make sure the budget gets passed? It's like, it's not, it's the Liberals. It says, yeah, but you guys, abstained, and the Liberals didn't offer you anything for it. Yeah, because the Liberals decided that they were going to play a game of political chicken. That they were very, very confident that they would win, and they were right. Why make compromises if you don't need to? This might also give us some insights into our trading negotiation with the United States, by the way. If Mark Carney didn't fall over himself and trip over himself to make a whole bunch of tons of concessions to the other party because he was pretty supremely confident pretty confident in his budget and confident that if we went into an election right away, that he might do better and actually get his majority. Maybe that we can get some insights with what he's doing with the United States. It's like, no, I'm not going to sign on to that. Well, you're going to get another tariff. Well, so be it. We'll wait you out. Go ahead. Do your worst. So we know that we have the people behind us, and the more that you do to us, the more support it's going to generate for us. So keep smacking us across the face. You're only ensuring that you're going to have to deal with us longer, and we're still not going to bend. So do you want to bend now or do you want to bend later? And the United States has decided that it's going to bend later. And Canada is going, okay, fine, we'll wait. Meanwhile, we'll be doing all this other stuff. Like maybe switching up our CF-18 order. Maybe. Oh, sorry, our F-35 order. CF-18s are what we have. Maybe. Just, we're talking to Sweden. The royal family's coming. They're actually, the royal visit's today, by the way. So, maybe go ahead. You keep doing that. We'll just do our things. And when you're ready to talk, well, we'll still be here. So, like I said, we might be getting some insights into the negotiating strategy with the United States based on how Mark Carney has negotiated with the parties here. If he's not fearing anything and knows he has a contingency plan, go ahead, vote against it. It's your election, right? It's your seats that you're risking. Let's see again and how this finishes off here for Mr.
Wasn't there something in the budget for your riding?
There were things for my writing, and that's why I had to abstain.
Could I have that in ineptitude? I know that CBC North will want that quote in ineptitude.
What was the question?
Just could I have you say that in ineptitude, just so your constituents actually can get it too?
Pimageruk sakyak titiyo madlakik punga nararaw kama takwa takutitiyo marok punga libro kun ikayok tuingin nama takutitiya kamarik punga takwa libro kut imanelyong nyak titlugi ujaksuk titikan nira kapugo ukyok taktong mionit ikpigusuk kama uvanine warok tune ikpigusuk kama.
What is your message to voters?
I have to say, I liked that. I liked that the journalist asked him, Ms. Idlut, to repeat her comments in Inuktitut so that they could be delivered in that language to her constituents by CBC North. Again, when you're asking, why do we need a CBC? This is one of the reasons right there. All right, let's keep going.
What is your message to voters? When did you decide your vote was no? When did you decide that?
We caucused as late as today. So we made our final decision this morning.
Knowing how you were going to vote?
Of course we did. Yes.
What is your message to voters who already saw your party as close to the Liberals
Last
in the
question,
supply
I
and
think,
confidence
people.
agreement?
I'm sorry.
What is your message to voters who already saw the NDP as an extension of the Liberals through the supply and confidence agreement? Now you're, once again, it could be seen as helping the Liberals with the budget passing.
Well, voting no to a Liberal budget couldn't be a clearer message that we're not propping up the Liberal government. We voted no tonight. It's a bad budget. It's not a budget that we think that, well, count the votes. I stood in my place and voted no. And we voted no as a party, and it's up to other parties to determine what they do. It was up to any other party to defeat this government if they wanted to, including the Conservatives, including the Bloc, right? And yes, including Elizabeth May. So in a minority parliament, every vote counts. The NDP voted no to this budget tonight. We're going to continue to work for a better budget for people, and we're going to continue to do what Canadians want us to do, which is work and solve the problems that are facing them. Thanks very much, everybody.
Okay, that is NDP interim leader.
So there you go. NDP interim leader Don Davies, as David Cochrane would surely say on the show, explaining their budget position here, which to me is completely cogent and makes sense. Like I said, Don Davies handled that as best as possible, answering the questions, sticking to civics, allowing Gord Johns and Laura Idlet, who did have the abstentions, to take the mic and respond for their votes. Right? that's about all you can ask for. And considering how tricky the situation was, uh, this is about the best that they could do. And he did the best that they can do by actually telling the truth and sticking to the way that the system is intended to work. I wish that there was more of that in our politics, to be totally honest, because, yeah, uh, it's refreshing. Um, uh, it's refreshing to have politicians talk about the system as it is and not as they wish it would be or as they want it to be, or just misrepresent it as being to the public. We had the conservatives over the past few days. I think it was Andrew Scheer or something. Um, that the Mark Carney was trying to get a majority through unconstitutional means or undemocratic means or something like that. Yeah, undemocratic means. I was like, no, all of this floor crossings are democratic. Talking to people, negotiating people, trying to get people to come to your side if you can. All this is part of the parry and thrust of politics. These are all completely democratic manners in which going about. They're just ways that you don't like because they would affect you um, adversely and won't make you look good. But yeah, I'm not. There's nothing undemocratic about talking to members of other parties and asking them, it's like, why are you with them? Wouldn't you be more comfortable with us? I mean, you're not that type. You're not a Polyev type of conservative. You don't get involved in that type of mudslinging or whatnot. And it's like you're not for using the notwithstanding clause on, to remove rights. That's not your thing. That's not your vibe. We've seen you around for the last 10, 15 years here. What are you doing? Are you still comfortable in that party? Really? These are normal conversations. None of this is undemocratic. So, yeah, I'm not, like I said, this is about the best that Don Davies could do. And, he could have gone into a bunch of other hyperbole and that type of stuff, or try to create some fake reasons or fake rationales. And he just stuck very closely to it, or even at the end, right? It's like, I don't know what more statement you can get that we oppose, that we're not propping up this government, than, the 5 votes that are recorded saying, no, we don't support this government. So, again, doing the best he could with what he had, and handling it relatively well. Okay. Is that all I have for the budget? Let's see if there's anything else here, just to make sure. This looking at something from iPolitics, and nope, it seems that Cloudflare is down again now. That might make a little things a little difficult to do today, hopefully. But let's see here. We got CBC going through the day a little bit, and let's see what else, if there was anything here. Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer's seat was empty for roll call. He came running and saying he had technical issues and registered a no vote. So that was more stuff there. Let's see if there's anything else here. There's a timeline thing that happened yesterday, and that will that could give a good idea here. If there was any special things. All right. Not that I can see, but I will go through this a little more later today, and I will pick out any nuggets there that might be there in terms of learning about how it went, because there was a lot of backroom discussions and that type of stuff that went on, and we'll see what it is. If there's anything I may have missed, I think I caught everything because I listened to a lot of stuff. But you never know. There's sometimes little extra tidbits here and there that you miss. So I will go through that later today, and I will bring that to you tomorrow, if there is anything in that sense. let's see here with regard. Yeah. So, okay. So that's everything I've got for the budget then for you here. Uh, so we'll move on to another subject. There was a meeting yesterday, a virtual meeting between the prime minister and the premiers yesterday. Um, and that was relatively important. It generated overall uh, good sentiment, good feelings, positive things being said about it by everyone around. Uh, Concerns still in that um, uh, not as much details as some of the premiers would have wanted with regard to things are going with the United States, but it seems that there is a greater commitment for more regular communication, which would be uh, rather important. The premiers were um, upset somewhat that um, the schedule seemed to have slowed down in terms of communications there. But Doug Ford had come out stating that he had hoped that the budget would pass. I believe Premier Wap Kinew as well had explicitly come out stating his hopes that the government's budget would pass with regard to that. But there's no big news coming from that meeting other than uh, that the meeting overall was positive. But yeah, just some lack of details, particularly with regard to infrastructure funding. There was some disappointment there expressed by Doug Ford with regard to that. Um, and yeah, I believe that's the most I got on that. Um, in addition, this budget came in the context of some data with regard to inflation coming out yesterday that was positive overall for the federal government. According to Jenna Bentetrit at CBC, Canada's annual inflation rate edged down to 2.2% in October, largely due to gas prices falling at a faster pace, Statistics Canada said on Monday. Pump prices fell at a rate of 9.4% in October after falling 4.1% in September as drivers switched to cheaper winter gas blends and crude prices came down, quote, amid continued concerns of oversupply, the data agency wrote. When excluding gasoline, inflation came in at 2.6% last month, the same as in September. The details of the inflation report were, quote, tad on the disappointing side, wrote BMO chief economist Douglas Porter, as lower gasoline and food prices were a big reason for the moderation, while many underlying prices ticked up. The Bank of Canada indicated during its most recent interest rate decision that it expects inflation to stay close to its 2% target in the coming months. Governor Tiff Macklem suggested at the time that the bank would hold rates at their current level if inflation stayed close to its 2% projection. The bank's preferred measures of core inflation, which strip volatile sectors or one-off tax changes from the headline number, have been hovering closer to 3%, and some of these measures moderated in October. Grocery prices grew at a slower pace last month, helping to bring the overall rate down, but prices are still elevated and have been outpacing headline inflation for 9 months now, according to Statistics Canada. The price of other food preparations, a category that mostly includes processed foods, grew at a slower pace, as did prices for fresh vegetables, but this was offset by higher prices for fresh or frozen chicken. Slower growth in gas and grocery prices was partly offset by higher cell phone plan prices. Home and auto insurance price growth also ticked up in October, with prices rising most in Alberta for both categories. The new news here is not great, driven by persistent strength in insurance costs and a snap higher in cell charges, wrote Porter, adding that this report is just another reason to believe the Bank of Canada is moving to the sidelines in December and won't cut rates further. So I'm going to go and take a look at Statistics Canada data to see exactly what they are saying about food inflation specifically, because that's what I'm keeping my eye on, and I would be interested um, to know specifically how this one is acting here. So let's see if we can get the data here. Taking a look, the CPI. Okay, the next CPI data will be released on December 15th. I'm not seeing the thing at the moment. Let's see if we can. Nope, that's not it either. Interestingly enough, interesting. Number usually comes up a little more quickly. There we go. This is what I was looking for here. Let's see what they're saying about food and other types of price growth here. The rate of price growth for goods and services had distinct trends in 2024. Well, this is not the right data. Okay, clearly I am having trouble today finding the correct information. There we go. This is not the document, however, this is just data. Okay, not particularly helpful information, unfortunately. Normally, the actual Statistics Canada page pops up, and it's a little easier to refer to. If this is a crowd, I can't even remember the name of the software to do with that going on, but it's a little tricky to find information this morning while these systems things are happening, unfortunately. Ah, darn. Okay, so I will have to look at that a little bit more, kits and cubs, unfortunately, and hopefully I will be able to get the proper information, one that it specifically I'm looking for with regard to inflation to you, because I'm trying to figure out how much it went down with regard to wage. Compare those two pieces of data. And like I said, for some reason, Statistics Canada is, I'm not able to find that information on their website at the usual spot at the moment, which is frustrating. Okay, but hey, when servers go down, right? You can only do what you can, and fortunately, that is the best I can do today. I've got here something from the financial information here that can help uh, with it. Just taking a look here. Food prices, there we go, a little additional information. Rose most slowly in October, climbing by 3.4%. It was down from 4% in September. So that is a 0.6% drop in food prices. That's not negligible. Prices for frozen and fresh chicken, as we mentioned, was up. They were up 6.2% year over year, while fresh vegetables were down 1.4%. On a month-to-month basis, grocery prices fell by 0.6%, the largest decline since September 2020, when they fell by 1.1%. However, Statistics Canada noted grocery prices have remained elevated and have outpaced overall inflation for 9 consecutive months, which is one of the parts that we were mentioning here. And the other thing I wanted to look at was the cost of shelter, whether or not that was changing, because in recent months, um, the price of shelter has been going down. So as we've been mentioning, when we're looking at the overall economy, and we were saying that it's affecting if you own a house and if you own stocks and bonds and that type of stuff, you're probably doing better. And if you're a renter and you don't, you're probably doing worse. That sort of K-shaped economy that we're talking about. And everybody's got to eat and everybody needs shelter. So if the prices of shelter and the prices of food are rising faster than core inflation and are rising faster than wages, then that's a very difficult situation for those who are on the lower end of the K economy. According to this, shelter prices rose by 2.4% in October, down from 2.6% the month before. So shelter is still decreasing. Food decreased a little. Now, it would just be interesting to see what wage growth was in Canada and to see if that still is exceeding um, uh, exceeding inflation. And then you would get a better picture to see if things are easing up a little bit. But it would seem here that with, at least for the last month, with food going down 0.6% and shelter going down another 0.2%, that the most basic things, that the most basic things that everybody is needs to get is a little less expensive. And if that could be um, um, get benefit or boosted by wage growth that is higher than inflation, that would be some very good data here. And I'm not finding the most recent wage growth data here, so I cannot give you that information today. But I will keep an eye out for it as the systems come back up and that the data is easier to find. All right. Let's see if I can just take a look. Maybe I can find this data over here for you. There we go. Yes. Average hourly wages among employees increased 3.5%. So an extra $1.27 to $37.06, $37.06 on a year over year. My God, I'm having trouble talking today. Let's try that again. Average hourly wages among employees increased 3.5%. That's up $1.27 to $37.06 on a year-over-year basis in October, following growth of 3.3% in September, if not seasonal, and this is not seasonally adjusted. So there you go. So overall, then this month, that would be better wage growth. Higher than the rate of core inflation and higher than the previous month. So the rate at which wages are increasing is also increasing. Shelter down and food down. So things are a slightly bit more affordable in October than they were in September, even for those of us who are at the most precarious situations in the economy. If that could continue for a while, that would be a wonderful thing. But we can't bank on that. This type of data tends to fluctuate rather wildly over a certain period, over shorter periods of time. That's why we always look at it on an annualized basis. It kind of smooths over the spikes and the peaks and the valleys in the data from month to month, particularly when they have big swings. All right. Let's see what else is going on today because there is some stuff. There's a lot of activity going on here. According to iPolitics, with his minority government now at least temporarily secure in its hold on power in the wake of last night's make or break vote on the budget, Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to start his day by holding his regularly scheduled Tuesday morning huddle with his front bench team. That will be scheduled around 10 a.m. After that wraps up, he'll make his way to the airport to welcome visiting Swedish royals King Carl XVI Gustaf and Queen Sylvia, who will be, quote, paying a rare 3-day state visit to Canada, accompanied by, quote, a delegation of top government ministers and representatives from dozens of Swedish companies, according to the Canadian press. As published here in The Colonist, which is from Victoria. This is Kyle Duggan from the Canadian Press saying the Swedish royal family is paying a rare 3-day state visit to Canada this week, bringing with them a delegation of top government ministers and representatives from dozens of Swedish companies. King Carl XVI Gustaf, Sweden's longest reigning monarch, and Queen Sylvia are in Ottawa and Montreal Tuesday through Thursday. It's their first trip to Canada since 2006 when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister. The Swedish royal court said Canada and Sweden will launch a strategic partnership during the state visit. Sweden's Industry Minister Ebba Busch and Defense Minister Pål Jonsson will be part of the visiting delegation, which is expected to focus on establishing closer ties with Canada on trade and defense. Canada and Sweden have sought to deepen their relationship since the Nordic country became the latest member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, last year. Sweden joined the military alliance in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The high-profile visit comes as the Swiss defense firm Saab considers whether it should start assembling its Gripen fighter jets in Canada as demand for the warplanes ramps up. Saab CEO Michael Johansson told Canadian media in Sweden last week that the company is in talks with Ottawa and Bombardier about assembling the Gripens in Canada, a development that would create thousands of domestic jobs. Quote, we can confirm discussions about Gripen are occurring between Saab and Bombardier being open to engage in providing local expertise for the program if the Government of Canada decides to go this route, Bombardier spokesman Mark Maslush said in an email to the Canadian press. The two companies are already partnered on Global Eye early warning surveillance aircraft, which are manufactured in Canada and sent to Sweden to have their sensor equipment installed. Saab said recently it wants to do more of that work in Canada. Years ago, when Saab was trying to sell Ottawa on its Gripen fighter jets as a replacement for the CF-18s, it said the jets could be built and maintained in Canada. It also offered an extensive industrial package that included standing up new aerospace research and development centers in the country. It lost that contract when Canada announced plans to purchase 88 F-35 stealth fighters from U.S. manufacturer Lockheed Martin. But soon after becoming Prime Minister in March this year, Mark Carney called for a review of the F-35 procurement program in response to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff war. Canada has only committed to buying 16 F-35 jets so far. The review, which was believed to be in Carney's hands now, has not been made public, and the federal government has largely avoided discussing the topic in public. Johansson first said in October that Ukraine's interest in purchasing more than 100 Gripens would double the defense company's production requirements and force it to look to Canada or other countries in Europe to expand its manufacturing capacity. The Gripens are fourth-generation fighters built for aerial combat and reconnaissance missions and were designed specifically for engagements with Russian fighter jets. They are rugged, cheaper, and less delicate than the new F-35s and are able to take off from roads. The F-35 are advanced fifth-generation stealth fighters designed for electronic warfare and eventually for paired combat alongside drones. Lockheed has pointed to the hundreds of Canadian companies that have contributed to the jet's supply chain and says each fighter contains some $3.2 million of Canadian components. The company says the F-35's horizontal tail is made in Winnipeg, its engine center is built in Ottawa, and its stealth panels come from Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. Rideau Hall has said Governor General Mary Simon will not be on hand to greet the Swedish Royals when they arrive. Simon missed the National Remembrance Day ceremony last week because she was recovering in hospital from a respiratory. She was replaced at the ceremony by Chief Justice Richard Wagner. Rideau Hall said Friday Simon was out of the hospital and recovering at home, and Wagner will still represent the Crown in her place during the state visit. Wagner will be among the Canadian delegation to officially welcome the royal couple to Rideau Hall today or this morning, after which he will meet with the King and Queen inside. The royals will lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier and are set to meet with Prime Minister Mark Carney and other Canadian officials on Parliament Hill in the afternoon. In the late afternoon, they are scheduled to attend an event at the National Arts Centre focused on Canada and Sweden's support for Ukraine in the ongoing war with Russia. A state dinner in honor of King Carl XVI Gustaf and Queen Sylvia is set for the Governor General's residence on Tuesday evening. So a full state dinner. So there's definitely some courtship going on here. All right. And after his tete-a-tete with the royals this afternoon and making an appearance at the state dinner in their honor at Rideau Hall this evening, the Prime Minister will head to the airport to catch an overnight flight to Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. All right. Let's see what else do we have here on the radar. Let's see. All right. I think that's most of the big stuff here. The Public Servants Alliance of Canada, National President Sharon D'Souza and Vice President Alex Sillis will hit the West Block Press Theatre to kick off what their advisory describes as, quote, a national lobby day on job cuts and impacts to Canada's public services, which will bring PSAC members from across the country to Parliament Hill for a full day of meetings with with MPs to urge them to reject austerity and protect critical public services millions of people depend on and the workers who deliver them. And then there's a whole bunch of other type of stuff here with regard to other people that will be joining. A lot of it is economic today, specifically, given the budget. All right. That is the main stuff going on today, kits and cubs. So I think we have a show for you. That's the end of our episode, kits and cubs. Please share our content with your peeps and poops because sharing is caring and you are influencers in your own circle. Share a little bit about why our content resonates with you, and that helps us out a lot. Now, kits and cubs, if you would like us to help you because you are a busy beaver and kit on the go and you are making things happen, and sometimes you don't have the opportunity to watch the show with us live or at your own convenience, well, thanks to the Ray Girl, you don't have to worry about missing an episode because, well, we have an audio version of our show. And thanks to her and this QR code, you can go there, go to our pod page and click on subscribe. And when we have something fresh off the audio cast bandwidth, it will come directly to you. And that way you could pop us in your ears and be on the go, taking on the world and remaining informed at the same time. Kits and Cubs, if you would like to help us, and we could definitely use your help, one of the ways you can do so is by going to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where Kits, Cassie, and Elaine will urge you to smash with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Give them a little flick. It helps us with the algorithm and makes us very happy when we see our numbers go up. And if you would like to help us in yet another way, say financially, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, and we would be grateful for your help with those, well, kits and cubs, you can go to our coffee page. That QR code that appeared will bring you right there. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And when you drop a couple of toonies and loonies in our jar, not only do they make a lovely sound when they hit the bottom, but it does help us bring this show to you. And we are grateful for all of your support, where we affectionately call that our tip jar, the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, where you can help to keep your favorite beaver moist. Ah, that was a musical moist. We keep on being told by our vocal director, please pop the consonants at the end. It sounds ridiculous when you're on stage, but when you're in the back row, it sounds great. So it's not thank the Lord, it's thank the Lord. I tell you, musicals are great for your diction. Right? It's not when you meet a gent. It's when you meet a gent. So we're really popping that in and the pa-pa-pas in there. So hopefully some of those lessons will apply to my podcasting. So therefore I could be much more clear and enunciate when I speak. So therefore everything I say is definitely much more easier to hear. It is very difficult to speak like this at all times. I do not know how people do it. There are some people who enunciate so clearly that they can speak so low and you can understand every word because you hear every consonant and vowel. They don't get mumbled up or muddled together. But it's an exhausting exercise to speak in that manner consciously. But hopefully I will get better. And there are times where it comes in very handy, I have to admit. However, particular with my beaver sweetie, because he has some hearing issues, and the more I enunciate and the clearer I pronounce my consonants, he is more able to understand, and I have to repeat myself a whole lot less often. Anyway, Because democracy is something that you do, kits and cubs. Remember, we have two petitions for you. We have petition E6821, and that is to encourage our politicians to present a law in the House that would make it such that Canadian media is owned by Canadians and delivers news made by Canadians for Canadians in the best interest of Canadians. And it seems that the House of Commons site is also down with regard to what's going on with these server issues today. So I cannot bring you the petition tallies today, nor provide the links. And the other one is the measure on making sure that having our politicians introduce a bill to make it such that there are consequences for politicians who deliberately misinform Canadians. And that would be also very important. And again, I can't bring it up, so I can't get you the petition number, unfortunately, today. A lot of the things that I'm trying to do today are not working because of this cloud thing server. I can't even remember the name of the stuff. I'm so technologically. But Kit's PNC Bio gave us a great explanation in the chat of what it is that particular server, I guess, does, and why it is it's so important. And it's not just like I said, it's a lot of websites depend on it that are being affected by it being not as fully functional today as it usually is. Also, kits and cubs, in the democracy something that you do section, please remember that there is, sorry, I am burping today, a by-election going on in Prince Edward Island for, I believe it is District 2. Yes, Georgetown poll. In that by-election, the leader of the Liberal Party of Prince Edward Island, Robert Mitchell, is running in there. So that would be an opportunity for him to gain a seat if the voters decide they will go that way. Voting day is December 8th. But there is advanced voting available on November 29th, December 1st, and December 5th from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And again, if you are looking to run for something, there's still a deadline for candidate nominations, and that is November 21st at 2 p.m. So maybe you want to throw your hat in the ring. You never know. All right. Kits and cubs, could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of 3, could I please have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. I hear you, kits and cubs, loud and clear, and therefore, as your humble servant, I must oblige. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs. A couple of little tidbits for you that came out. There was a statement here from the office Stubbs saying here, MP Stubbs has been approved medical leave. She is in the early stages of recovery from major surgery performed at the Royal Alexandra Hospital in Edmonton. The procedure corrected a significant medical condition rooted in complications from birth after years of specialist assessments and medical planning. Her surgery team ordered several weeks of strict bed rest, no speaking, and limited movement to ensure a safe recovery. She remains grateful to the hospital staff for their care and professionalism. The surgery was originally set for last spring, but it was postponed when the Liberals called an election. When it was rescheduled, very few surgical dates were available. At the time, no one had any information about the Liberals' budget schedule, and the government repeatedly shifted the budget date. All medical approvals were granted months before any notice of the budget. Her constituency office in Two Hills remains fully open to serve the people of Lakeland. Thank you, Office of MP Shannon Stubbs. Another statement, but nobody coming to a camera and actually saying the words. So I'm not sure what it is with the Conservatives with regard to that. Kits and cups, a little bit of Canadians who make us proud. If we have a couple of moments, I would like, I think it was Linda who may have brought this to our attention. And again, it is not working for me. So frustrating today. But let's see if I can come at it another way. Yes, this is from early October, and I didn't have a chance to mention it, but I do have some time today. Vicky Richardson is the first Canadian to win the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships in her category. The event took place in Spain. And according to Gabriela Silva Ponte, a Greater Toronto Area resident, just won the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championship in the over 60 category, and she's the first Canadian to do it. Vicky Richardson has known she loved puzzles since a young age when she sat on her father's knee and helped him decipher which pieces went where. What she didn't know is that decades later, she'd be flying to Spain to compete in the puzzle championship. Quote, "I'm so proud to be the Canadian that was up on the podium," she told CBC Radio's Metro Morning. "It's so exciting, almost surreal, just a fantastic experience." Richardson stopped doing puzzles in her late teens when she was completing her post-secondary education and starting a family, but when she retired in April 2023, she found herself having less to do. So she returned to puzzles, this time joining the Canadian Jigsaw Puzzle Association, embarking on the endeavor with her daughter and being the one to teach her grandchildren all about the art of puzzles. The World Jigsaw Puzzle Championship is no easy feat, Richardson said. The event, which ran from September 15th to September 21st in Valladolid, Spain, gathers hundreds of speed puzzlers in one room where they're timed and ranked. Richardson said the 500-piece puzzle she did was specifically created for the competition and isn't available for sale in Canada at the moment. In just over 1 hour, she opened the box, turned over the pieces, and constructed the puzzle that led to her international acclaim. Wow. Richardson said 1 hour seems too long, though. She's usually able to do a 500-piece puzzles in just 40 minutes due to her many hours of rehearsal. You just practice, practice, practice. Many different kinds of puzzles over and over. Record your time, trying to turn over the pieces as quickly as possible, she said. The minute she's done, she packs the puzzle back into its box and puts it away again. It's done, on to the next, Richardson says. I have a good puzzle library. Richardson's daughter, Tracy Nonamura, says her mom's very excited about winning the championship. Quote, "She's working on figuring out the right place to put her trophy," Nonamura said. "I'm incredibly proud of her. She practiced a lot for this, and she really, really deserves it. The two planned the trip last minute during Easter this year. We were nervous because we didn't really know what to expect. Deep down, she knew her mom had it in the bag. She vividly recalls when she was growing up and Super Bowl weekend rolled around. Her mom would whip up the puzzles while the rest of the family watched the football game. It was really intriguing," Nonamura said. "It was always a passion, even when we were kids. That's actually how they do puzzles most of the time, watching a show without all the stress of speed puzzling. Puzzles are relaxing. They do engage the mind." She said she's also noticed her mom's mind continues to be sharp. Her cognitive ability didn't decrease, which you would kind of expect after retirement when you're not using your brain necessarily in the same way, but that didn't happen to her. Age-appropriate mental exercises such as jigsaw puzzles can indeed have protective properties when it comes to cognitive abilities, said Lixia Yang, a psychology professor at Toronto's Metropolitan University, who is also the director of the school's Cognitive Aging Lab. Quote, "It can help you use your brain reserve and maintain the brain functions even into older adulthood," she said. "Don't aim too high. It should be something within your capacity and within your comfort level." Yang added that everyone should maintain an active attitude as they age. Quote, "Age is just a number," she said. whatever keeps you active, keeps you engaged, is good for the aging process. And here, Kits and Cubs, we have Miss Richardson with her medal posing. I didn't even know that there was a World Jigsaw Puzzle Championship until, but there she is, proudly representing Canada. Gotta love it. All right, Kits and Cubs, I believe that's all I got for you. So with that, amour et bisous, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, Tam Fam.